Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explained here, and today we're gonna live dangerously. We're gonna do something really dangerous. So we're gonna be doing a what if based on what if Sasuke married Hinata, and I gotta keep it real with you, okay? So the inspiration from this actually came from one of you guys. One of you guys left a comment in the comment section. Someone said I need to do what if Sasuke married Hinata, and at first I kind of just brushed it off the same way that I brushed off what if Kiba married Hinata, and then I got to think about it and I was like, that's actually somewhat interesting. And so I decided to kind of just dive right into this one, because the more I got to thinking about it, the more I began to realize, like, yo, there's actually something there. The people who shipped these two together, which, newsflash, this was a very popular pairing back in the day when Naruto was a weekly manga. The people who shipped this weren't absolutely crazy like I thought they were, and I'm just gonna be upfront with you guys. In my opinion, I really feel like this came from something that Kishimoto said in an interview that took place a little over a decade ago about what would have happened if a baby was born with an Uchiha for a parent and a Hyuga clan member for a parent. So long story short, the baby would have a Sharingan in one eye and a Byakugan in the other eye. Now Kishimoto was pretty clearly trolling, but in my opinion this did fan the flames for this pairing, which might surprise quite a few of you guys as being one of the more popular pairings in the Naruto fandom when the Naruto manga was weekly. While it wasn't as high as Naruto and Hinata, Sasuke and Sakura, Naruto and Sakura, or Sasuke and Naruto, it was higher than some of the stuff you got with Sasuke and Ino. So like all of my what ifs, in order for this to happen, we must first establish a trigger point in the timeline for this to occur. And given that Sasuke and Hinata never really interacted in the main story, as in they never exchanged words with one another, outside of Hinata being impressed with Sasuke's Lion's Barrage, the two never actually exchanged words with each other. However, a deep dive into the characters does come out with enough to work with, especially when you look at how we need to establish this trigger point. So in this case, we're going to be starting right after the war arc of Naruto. So the first major change that would have to occur is that Sasuke will refuse his call to adventure when he begins his hero's journey anew by undergoing his redemption journey. Instead of seeking repentance for his sins outside of Konoha, Sasuke will take the much more difficult road of changing the perception of him from within the very same village that he once sought to destroy. It would be in the 2 years that followed that Hinata would watch as Naruto was being heralded as being a hero. Naruto, Kakashi, and Sakura all had reasons to forgive Sasuke. Nobody else really did. Hinata was watching all this from the shadows, and she would see as Sasuke worked in silence to overcome the hatred that was casted on him, much in the same way that Naruto did the same thing when he was younger. Just as she admired his strength in the Chunin exam, Hinata would admire his strength to endure. It would be during this time that Hinata would do the one thing she never did in the entire Naruto manga, which is she would actually have a conversation with Sasuke. She'd ask him why he was going through so much, to which Sasuke would look at the Hokage monument and he'd utter Naruto's name in as few words as possible, because we know Sasuke doesn't like to speak a lot. Sasuke would tell her that Naruto believed in him when he didn't believe in himself, how Naruto never gave up on him no matter how dark the path that he walked on. He'd hold the sleeve where his arm used to be, remembering that Naruto had given up his own arm to save Sasuke from the darkness. He'd say that Naruto was his family, much like his brother Itachi. Sasuke's own strict father preferred his brother Itachi, and Sasuke for a while held resentment toward Itachi, just as he once resented Naruto for a time. Sasuke would say that just like Itachi, Naruto had done everything possible to give him a better chance at a happy life. Itachi gave his life to save Sasuke, and Naruto had given his arm to pull Sasuke from the black abyss known as evil. Sasuke would tell her that he'd spend as long as he needed to both prove to himself as well as to the village that hated him that he was worthy of the second chance that both of his brothers gave him. Hearing Sasuke's words would strike something deep inside of Hinata. Just as she looked at Naruto's back for years, taking inspiration from his actions, she would realize that Sasuke was now doing the same. She recalled how her own father was very strict, had high expectations, and he had preferred her younger sister Hanabi. She vaguely related to Sasuke's brother issues with Itachi, whereas she conquered her cousin Neji's hatred towards her with love and compassion. Sasuke had instead chose a path of vengeance, yet despite all of that, they both still loved Itachi and Neji despite the two of them no longer being alive. Upon this, Sasuke would realize he'd spoken a bit too uncharacteristically, and he would promptly leave leave the scene, though his moment of vulnerability would leave a huge impact on Hinata. Now, as we head to the Naruto the Last portion of the timeline, Sasuke's growing feelings for Sakura would need to be addressed. Now, in my opinion, because of everything that Sakura went through for him, as well as the additional time that he'd be able to spend with her since he was in the village, Sasuke would still have some feelings for Sakura, but that's going to be important going forward, and this is where the major trigger point is going to occur. With Sasuke back in the village during the events of Naruto the Last, Kakashi will be able to make a drastic change. Originally, during the last movie, the only two members of the Konoha 11 who were assigned the rank of Jonin were Shikamaru and Sakura. With a crisis at hand, Kakashi will realize he has the best chance of keeping the village safe, and he would know the best option would be to have Sasuke put on the Hanabi rescue team. But here's where the major change occurs. Shikamaru will be forced to remain behind in the village to lend Kakashi assistance when it comes to guiding the village. Assuming Sasuke never becomes a Jonin, then Sakura will be the only Jonin on the team, and she would be assigned team leader and given the countdown timer on her hand. The events of Naruto the Last, they occur much the same until we get to the Genjutsu trap left behind by Toneri. Given that the lake itself is a huge mystery in both the novel as well as in the actual movie itself, we don't know for certain if the Genjutsu trap that's inside of the lake could be detected by Sasuke's eyes. Given that this lake for some reason was able to keep Kurama from breaking Naruto, a perfect Jinchuriki out of a Genjutsu, that Sakura, someone who's not a perfect Jinchuriki, has no other Biju chakra inside of her, Sakura was able to break out of the Genjutsu after falling under it, whereas nobody else could. So given we don't know just how complex this Genjutsu trap is or how exactly it works, we're gonna have a bit of fun here. So to be safe, I'm gonna assume that Sasuke still falls under this Genjutsu, even though logically he shouldn't be able to. But given the few questionable moments that Naruto the Last has anyway, I just say roll with it. This would be where another major change would occur. Instead of the red scarf of fate that connected Naruto and Hinata, instead it will link Hinata to Sasuke. Upon being linked, the scarf would have a similar effect that it did on Naruto, linking Sasuke's mind to Hinata. Sasuke would see his conversation with Hinata. However, this time he'll be looking through the kind-hearted eyes of Hinata. He'd see the many days and nights of Hanabi beating down Hinata, all while her strict father called her useless for losing a match after match to her younger sister Hanabi. He'd recognize the pain that she felt at Neji's death in ways that he couldn't put into words, but he knew all too well, since he'd know that Hinata also knew the pain of losing a brother who had died to protect her. Even though technically Neji was her cousin, Hinata viewed Neji like a brother. Seeing Hinata work to prove herself through her actions, just as he himself attempted to do the same with the village, would fill him with admiration for her. Seeing Hinata mend the broken fence with Neji through love and affection and compassion would make him think of the road that was not taken for him, the road that was closed for him, where in another life his relationship with Itachi wouldn't be defined for years by the sake of revenge. Seeing Hinata's Byakugan eyes would make him think of their common ancestor that he and Hinata shared, Kaguya Otsutsuki. Sasuke will recall how it was only one moment that caused Kaguya to walk a path of pure evil, just as it had been for him with the Uchiha massacre. But despite everything that Hinata had been through, Hinata had never once considered to walk that path. Looking at her long dark hair would remind him of his mother Mikoto, and it would be then that Sasuke would realize that the soft-spoken and kind-hearted nature of his mother, he'd now found that in Hinata. He'd recognize how different they were, and yet how similar they were at the same time. He, more the stern and silent type like his father Fugaku, and Hinata, more like her own mother and Sasuke's mother Mikoto. Just as he and Naruto were the yin and yang to one another, he'd realize that he and Hinata were also yin and yang. She, the light to his darkness, whereas he gave in to his own evil impulses and was constantly tempted by that anger. She was never tempted, and she conquered her troubles through love and compassion. Now, it will be here that the Genjutsu would be broken by Sakura. By the time that Toneri attempts to take Hinata, things would take a drastic change for the better. Sasuke will be able to fight alongside Naruto, who wouldn't be emotionally charged with his newly realized feelings for Hinata, which means Naruto's gonna fight with a much clearer head. Instead, as Naruto battled Toneri, Sasuke Sasuke would fly through the air with his Susanoo to aid Naruto in battle. Eventually, Sasuke would get within range and swap himself in Hinata, driving a Chidori through Toneri's heart. Just before Toneri died, Sasuke would use his Sharingan to read into his mind, just as Sasuke did during the Sasuke Shinden novel. And Sasuke would learn both of Hanabi's location and how to stop the Tenseigan bomb. Promptly removing Hanabi's eyes from Toneri before he passed away, Sasuke would teleport the team to Hanabi's location. While Sakura implanted Hanabi's eyes, Sasuke would promptly take Hinata to the Tenseigan energy vessel, and he'd tell her that she was the only one who could destroy it, that he'd read it in Toneri's mind, and Hinata herself would confirm this. Seeing Hamura's chakra radiate as Hinata molded her chakra to attempt to destroy the Tenseigan energy vessel, and after she failed, Sasuke would tell Hinata to do something she's never done. He'd grab her hand and tell her to try it again, and that Sasuke believed in her power, which is why this time Sasuke would add his own chakra to Hinata's attack. Upon the destruction of the Tenseigan energy vessel, a few things would change. There will be no meteor that comes close to killing Kakashi, since this would have occurred days sooner in the timeline. This also means that the team will return to Earth without Naruto ever knowing how he felt for Hinata, but Sasuke would have had seeds planted and matured into developing feelings for Hinata, making Sakura useless in the scenario of a romantic pairing, since Sasuke would realize that while Sakura had always been there for him, he related more to Hinata, going so far as to wonder if Hinata had been on Team 7, if he would have still fallen under the influence of evil, because the kind-hearted Hinata would always be there to guide him through her own actions to the correct path that Sasuke should have walked. Now, this changes everything. After bringing her father back to the village, which would still happen since during reading Toneri's mind, Sasuke would see Hinata's father laying face down in the desert, Sasuke would turn her dad to Hinata. Now, over the next few years, Sasuke would slowly open up to Hinata, breaking down the barrier that exists between himself and Hinata's heart, doing the one thing that Naruto was never smart enough to do before then in this moment, recognize how he felt for Hinata and actually tell her how he felt. Placing Hinata under a very strong genjutsu, Sasuke will reveal to Hinata everything that he felt from the moment that he first realized how he felt for her to bearing his actual soul to her, giving her feelings for Naruto, as well as Sasuke confirming what she also felt towards him in that moment, that they were a yin to one another's yang, bonded together by the inspiration that they took for Naruto. Hinata would take the time afterwards and she would feel confused and work through her emotions. But given Naruto never really knew how he felt for her, Hinata would eventually give into the growing love that she feels for Sasuke, realizing that her feelings for Naruto were unrequited, and she'd slowly fallen in love with Sasuke, moving past her childhood crush of Naruto. Around the 5th year anniversary of the 4th Great Ninja War, Sasuke would marry Hinata. Hinata, while submissive by nature, wouldn't completely submit to Sasuke's dominant nature. While she would lack the power of Sakura, Hinata, while strong enough to protect herself, would be significantly weak enough to require protection, which would mesh with the Uchiha clan's deep need for love, as well as to protect those that they cared for. As the last of the Uchiha, Sasuke's seed would finally be implanted into the womb of someone who's worthy of continuing his bloodline. The Uchiha were said to be the descendants of the Hyuga. They shared a common ancestor in Kaguya, and with the Hyuga clan genetics, the two strongest clans in Konoha, the Uchiha and the Hyuga, would produce an offspring who would truly be worthy of leading the village in the future. Also, given Hinata's bloodline does have the gene for twins, as shown with Hinata's father, there is a chance that they could also have twins. Keeping true to Kishimoto's word, their child would be born with both the Sharingan in one eye and a Byakugan in the other. While Naruto would go on to become Hokage, albeit never actually starting a family of his own, with the village itself now becoming Naruto's family instead, Sasuke would raise his twins with Hinata until Sasuke leaves in order to investigate Kaguya's ruins. While Sakura will likely be heartbroken, eventually she'd move on, throwing herself into her work, running her medical clinics, and now relating to her mentor Tsunade, who never actually married the person that she loved. And that's where we're gonna bring this What If to a close. So let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that Hinata could have served as the light to Sasuke's darkness? Do you think that they could have been a yin to each other's yang? And if you had to rank the Naruto pairings, this is more going to be a question for the OG fans such as myself, but if you had to rank the Naruto fan pairings, where would you rank Sasuke and Hinata? But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.